I'm a volunteer with the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement, and I am recording this in second growth forest in Oregon. Second growth is about the best we can do anymore. There's very few ancient forests never cut before. We've had record wildfires lately, and what you see in the background is actually smoke. It's not fog. And fires are a healthy part of a natural ecosystem, but we've suppressed fire for so long that now fires are catastrophic, and it's caused the air to be hazardous and given people headaches, and it's made my voice a bit raspy, but at least we're not on fire. Actually, right here we are in the yellow zone, and behind me is the red zone. Evacuate now. So I'm safe where I am for now. So I'm not actually an antinatalist, or at least I don't identify as one, but I fully agree with antinatalism. I just eschew titles, labels, like most anarchists do. And like most people who are antinatalists, I started promoting the idea, the concept, before I even knew what it was called. I encouraged people when they were thinking of not procreating, I encouraged them to consider what would it be like for the new person, their whole lifespan, in the future that we're creating. I didn't actually say, you know, they won't suffer where they are, non-born, but they will suffer when they're born. So it wasn't completely antinatalist philosophy, just kind of close. In the early 70s, I started promoting non-procreation and voluntary human extinction for the sake of the environment. It was called deep ecology, where we care more about Earth's biosphere than we do about humanity. I've also heard it called misanthropic antinatalism. I'm not a misanthrope. I still think the entirety of life is more important than our one species, but I'm also very concerned about the tragic lives anybody born today is going to have. So I've heard this called philanthropic antinatalism. So I guess I'm both a misanthropic and a philanthropic antinatalist. Even if I can't say it, that's what I am. So, not everybody in Vehement is an antinatalist, though many are. Some want us to go extinct to prevent the exploitation of non-human animals. Some feel that we just treat each other so badly we should go extinct. Some think we should go extinct so that what's left of Earth's biosphere can recover. This is, of course, incompatible with ethylism, but I think we've got enough to deal with just taking care of the suffering that we're responsible for. Suffering is difficult to quantify, but I think it has to do with longevity and intensity. Humans and our food animals suffer probably our whole lives to some extent. By phasing ourselves out and phasing out our domesticated animals as we go, we will eliminate most suffering on the planet, or at least all of the suffering that we're responsible for, and that's a lot. So no matter what type of antinatalism we identify with, we can all join together and increase awareness of the benefits of not procreating. May we live long and die out.
Is right, it's over in about 12 years. Personally, I believe we have a little more time than that, but I still recycle. Our next guest is taking things a little more seriously, though. Les Knight is the founder of the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement. He believes the human race should become extinct sooner rather than later in order to save the Earth. He joins me now to explain. So, Les, should you just kill yourself and that's how you get this Earth-saving thing done?
Yeah. Well, you know, that is the first thing a lot of people think. Oh, why don't you just kill yourself? Well, death has never improved human population pressures. What we are doing is advising people to think before they procreate, and if people think about it, think it all the way through. They probably won't. And if we stop procreating,
you don't want anybody
we'll go
having babies.
Well, they're only babies for a little while, you know. They grow into adults in a short time.
I am aware of that process, Les. All right, so do you have siblings?
I do. I have 7.7 billion siblings.
All right, but in
and
your
some of them aren't
family,
doing too well, man.
In your family,
Yeah.
did your parents, you have brothers and sisters?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, so would you have preferred that your parents not have your brothers and sisters?
Well, it's a little late now, isn't it?
I know, but
That's
I mean, if
kinda
you could
hypothetical.
go back, would you have preferred that you not have a brother, you not have a sister, and you're an only child?
You know what I'm really grateful for is my dad got a vasectomy, so there weren't more than 5 of us. We had a hard enough time on a teacher's salary living, you know, on that. So I'm glad I didn't have more.
Do you have a vasectomy?
I do. I highly recommend it. Snip, snip.
Okay. Well, you know what? In your case, maybe that's a good thing.
Oh, it's somebody faint?
I didn't mean to say it like that. So, okay. So, you believe that? Let's just say, for instance, if someone has a sickness, someone's not feeling well, do you think that we should save them and give them medical attention, or do you just think they should just
of course.
let them go?
Oh, yeah, no, death isn't going to solve the problem. You know, we're increasing by 250,000 a day, and so that many more people would have to die every day just to hold things steady. Now, death is not going to do the job.
But if you're not going to want anybody else to procreate, who's going to take care of all the old people when they are 60 and 70?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I mean, who's taking care of them now? No, until
a lot
the last
of
person
people
dies,
younger than they are. But that's the thing, you know, once no one's going to be able to wheel you around in a wheelchair, no one's going to be able to help you eat, tuck you into bed. Is that the goal?
No, no, that could be a consequence, but I don't think so. In the case that we get to that point, we will have prepared ourselves very well. We probably have robots that can change our catheters. Look out.
I don't know. That sounds like a short circuit to me. All right. Listen, I don't know what to make of this. I can't tell if this is a goof or not, and maybe I'm getting punked, but Les, I love you, man. Have a great life.
I love you.
People add things on that weren't there originally. Suicide, I don't think suicide has any bearing on antinatalism. Natalism means giving birth, and we're against giving birth. There are a lot of, from just reading the Facebook groups, I didn't go to Reddit, but there are a lot of very depressed people, naturally.
Right.
There's plenty of reason to be depressed. And sometimes it seems like they're cheering each other up by sharing their depression, but it can also, of course, feed more depression. The one Facebook group I'm thinking of, the antinatalist, they don't want talk of suicide. That's a subject they don't want in the group, and I can see why. But yeah, I guess there's always that danger. Like sometimes an interviewer will ask me, well, what if somebody comes along and takes vehement and wants to make it involuntary? And so, well, it wouldn't be the same thing, would it? It'd be something else. So, and that's with antinatalism. It's not a suicide cult, and it's not. It's actually anti-mortalism, because if you're not born, you won't die. So it prevents deaths.
Yeah.
Need to do it voluntarily, because no matter what evil scientist comes up with, there'll always be a few of us left, and we will repopulate with a vengeance. After the Black Death in Europe, you know, the graph just shows us shooting for the moon, making up for all that death. It's like, man, we don't want that to happen again.
That's interesting, because again, with the Sheldon Solomon, that's hard to say this time of the morning, the whole idea of fear of death and the need for immortality and legacy is just like, well, let's have children and we'll live forever through our children, isn't it? So,
yes. I think that's a big part of people's subconscious thinking.
So I was thinking about that, because now you're kind of popular. You're in articles and more people think about that. But still, I don't think that these ideas will prevail at some stage. I don't think so, you know, because we have this biological imperative to reproduce. We have this deeply in our gene. This is what we are meant to do. What's I would say, maybe very bluntly, but what's the use to have this kind of movement? What do you try to achieve with that?
Well, we have to have a freedom to do it in the first place, to not procreate. And hundreds of millions of couples don't have the wherewithal to not procreate, even if they don't want to. The awareness does no good if there isn't the wherewithal. Reproductive freedom is pretty much the beginning of the whole thing. And then there's awareness. When people are just barely scraping out a living, they aren't going to be thinking about overpopulation. Half the population is barely getting by. If you approach them and said, what do you think about voluntary human extinction? They're going, I'm trying to prevent my extinction right now. I don't know what you're talking about. So this is part of the problem.
You see, you said there about it's like awareness isn't enough. People need to have the wherewithal. So what you're doing with your movement will definitely raise awareness. How do you think that will help with the wherewithal?
Well, I would hope that it then translated into more reproductive freedom, because that's the problem we have all over the world, really, even in nations which pride themselves on having freedom to do as we wish. If people don't know that they have the freedom to not procreate, it doesn't do much good. And a lot of people have never considered, I know it sounds surprising, but they have never considered not procreating. It's what we do. Say, what, not? Like, what do you mean not procreate?
I see a difference with David Benatar. The main difference that I see with what you believe is, for him, coming to life is suffering. It's real pain, suffering, darkness, scream, excruciating. So that we had like kind of a debate with him. And he said, well, why would you like to put a baby into the world to make him suffer and to have an adult suffering? But what I think about when you with your vehement movement, it's all about protecting the earth, protecting the diversity, protecting the animal. It's not about us, it's about them. So they have the rights to live and we are destroying them. So it's a different approach, I guess. Is it correct?
Yes, there are plenty of antinatalists in the movement. People have different motivations for being a part of vehement and for not procreating. Yes, that's true. One of the main reasons is that people will, in the future, not have a very pleasant life. And that's slightly different from the antinatalist position that every life born is going to suffer. Today, yes, it's quite likely that the future just isn't what it used to be. So just as a precautionary measure, I think avoiding creating a new human, they don't exist yet. There's no point in bringing them into existence if we can help it, for many reasons, not just for their sake, but that is a big one, for the sake of all the other species on the planet, and also for the sake of humanity, as we try to take care of and feed and clothe everyone on the planet. It's going to get more and more difficult. It's already 30,000 children die every day from preventable causes. It's just, we're not taking care of the ones who are already here. Really seems unconscionable to me to continue creating people we can't care for.
And I think that's the difference between your
trend. It's just amazing, because I've been collecting news articles all along, and all of a sudden in 2018, it was just all over the place. Yes, I've been at this a long time. It's not really my movement. I just gave it a name. I'm sure the idea that we should stop procreating and allow humans to go extinct for the good of the biosphere has been around a while. So it got lost. And so by calling it something, the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement, maybe it won't get lost. And now it's in news articles and so on. My awareness came around in the early 70s, 1970s. Many people have contacted me and said, I thought I was the only one who thought this way. And so, oh, there's millions of us around the planet, but most of them will never hear it called vehement. That's just the way it is, as long as the idea goes. So this is a great change. The people are talking about not having children, which is pretty short-sighted, because what we are is creating new human beings. We're only children, less than 20 years, and we live another 60 years, hopefully. It's very short-sighted to say, are you going to have children? No, I'm going to have a middle-aged man, I think, and we'll see how he does. A lot of the problem is we're all talking about children, and that has an emotional effect. It's like, well, I love babies and children. So, well, do you like elderly who are on their deathbed? Yeah, I like them too, but we don't think about that when we create a new human being.
It's even like from a political point of view, it's so much as
that vehement isn't a philosophy of its own, but that there are many philosophies that lead people to that awareness, and antinatalism is one of them, a very big one, in fact. But there are other reasons that people consider themselves a part of the voluntary human extinction movement. And I don't know as though Benatar really likes the idea of being associated with human extinction. He has said, yeah, that's what's going to happen, but that's not what, he's not promoting that. He's promoting not procreation.
Yeah. And I think this frustrates some people because it's like, well, yeah, if you take the anti-natalist position, then it follows that human extinction would happen, but that's under the assumption that everyone would voluntarily do this.
Not too likely, is it?
Yeah, and that kind of bothers some people as well.
Sure, of course.
I'm okay with it.
Be the change,
For me, if there's 5 people, let's say I convince 5 people to voluntarily cease procreation, then yeah, those children won't come into the world to suffer and die, and at the same time, their children's children, so forth and so forth, right?
Yes, right.
And it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever heard the starfish story where some kids walking across this beach and putting starfish that got washed up onto the beach into the ocean again, and someone's like, well, what? You can't save them all. What's the point? Is well, I saved that one, and it means the world to that one's person, right?
Right, right.
And I think that fits within these types of ethical theories.
I think so, absolutely. When somebody tells me they got a vasectomy, they were kind of leaning that way, but not sure. And then they read something I wrote and they decided, okay, I'm going to do it. Now, it really makes me feel good. I think, yes, that quite likely prevented a human from entering the world, and who knows what they would do and have more, So, yeah, I like to think there are a few humans don't exist because of me. It's a good feeling.
Yeah.